Hi, I'm Jackie Biggs. I'm speaking to you from my kitchen, which is in a little village near the very edge of the west coast of Wales. And I'm going to, first of all, read you a few poems from my first collection, which was published in 2015, The Spaces in Between. There's quite a lot of nature and landscape in my work, so I'll start there. And read you this poem, which was inspired by the local mountain that we know as Carningley, which is just above Newport, Pembrokeshire, also known as Angel Mountain. We saw her first from the old stone cross down the dreamy valley. You catch your breath as she imposes suddenly on your world. She seems close, yet is far away. Her strength is on the air. She doesn't assist the climb over this shingles slipping, stumbling land, yet she draws you to her as she sucks moisture through rock to new springs. The sky above pulls and sweeps out to the farthest space beyond even her reach. Folk at work on her slopes in ancient times watched the distant seas as strangers arrived, their sails crowded with the west wind. Is that where angels lived? And where saints rested to gaze and touch their wings? Now, rough rocks like pebbles to giants lie all over this place. Icy currents stir around the summit. There is a darkness in her swirling mists as her power reaches out. I'm quite well known locally for writing political poetry, which is what I did when I first started writing poetry again about 8 years ago. I've kind of moved away from that now, but there's one in this book that I'd like to read today. And this was written as a result of plans to cull badgers in our local area as a pilot project at that time, way back 7-8 years ago. And the idea of culling the badgers was to reduce the spread of bovine TB to cattle. It's highly disputed whether that works or not, and still is, even though they're still culling, especially in England. They're shooting them in their thousands. This is Stay of Execution. He looks at her without seeing. Her breath catches at his beauty as she watches. His secrets are hidden in darkness. Dusk-time creature, rummaging and rooting. Heavy and strong, yet he glides light-footed over the earth. He goes about his business in private. He touches no one. Is confident, solid, secure, self-contained in his honest life. He lifts his head, nose twitching, ears prickle, a stick cracks, he's off. The stocky swagger powers forward and disappears. He knows only his dark world. He lives in the underground, has no need of us. Yet he is significant to us, essential, so that we can blame him for our ills. We reproach him for our shortcomings and seek to damage him blamelessly, simply because he lives. Knowledgeable men and women argue about him, discuss his trapping and killing. Misguided, mistaken, ill-advised, they will shoot him. But they shall not have him now. He is free to breathe his noble and gracious air, and his earth will reclaim him in its own time. Thank you. So this book began with this poem. A lot of the work in here is about grief and loss, relationship breakdown, This is the first one in the book, Time of the Snow. She wanted to remember what time it was. She knew in years to come, she would want to know the exact moment. So she could recall it all the detail. She would want to count it, minute by minute. So she looked at the clock and watched the snow falling outside, deepening the coldness, filling the world, layer on layer, minute on minute, hour on hour. She watched the minutes pile up, while inside, time was still. She knew the moment he went. She felt the press of his hand on hers, looked at the snow, forgot the clock. Time froze. So we move on to, oh yeah, sorry, don't like people who rummage. So yes, there's about relationships and relationship breakups, and some of it gets quite nasty and some of it gets quite dark and deep and horrible. And this is one that's, I find, a bit dark, and I'm not quite sure where it came from. But and you brought me roses. You broke my glass, crashed clear through the fineness of it. The tall stem is jagged, ready to tear soft skin. The fulsome bowl, thin, perfectly polished, is shattered across the floor, where fragments glint their sharpness. Wine, a deeper colour than the old life in your veins, spreads in a full-bodied bruise across orange carpet. Blood drips from the broken neck of the turning bottle in a crooked arc, and deep red petals are strewn like wind-blown tributes at a graveside. I must have been quite dark at that time. I carry on with the relationship theme to get a little more light-hearted. A couple of very short ones. Walls. People in relationships might recognise this. Relationships where they share a house or a home, for instance. Walls. He wanted everything painted white. She longed for colour. He said white is pure and clean. She said it looks dirty too soon, and it is cold. It would show all the fingerprints where they had been, and all their shadows would be clear. And this one is called Ceanothus. Do you remember the blue? Dusty but deep, flower heads making mounds of clouds. The tree grew too big, uprooted itself and left us. Another of those shared joys that we lost. I'm not bitter at all. Okay, and then you find love again, don't you? Well, you hope to, and many people do after they've been through bereavement and breakups and loss. So eventually we come to this one. The title is When. When the sun rises over frosted hills, when glaciers thaw, when frozen streams flow again and spring flowers open, when the birds sing and fly free, when I stand on the frozen beach, when I travel across the cool sea, when the south wind fills my sails, Sorry, I got interrupted. How annoying. How annoying. Sorry about that. Something interrupted me. I will start the poem again. This is When. When the sun rises over frosted hills, when glaciers thaw, when frozen streams flow again and spring flowers open, when birds sing and fly free, when I stand on the frozen beach, when I travel across the cool sea, when the south wind fills my sails, when music follows on the breeze, when moonlight shows the way to friendlier oceans, when the stars guide my soul to warmer shores, when I find you there, then, only then, will my heart melt. I'm sorry about that glitch. Something came up on my computer that I couldn't get rid of. These things happen. We're only human, aren't we? So I quite like this poem because I thought it was a bit funny, and I find it quite difficult to write amusing work. I think it either happens or it doesn't. It's sort of funny in a way. And then I'll read one more after this. I wrote this in Barcelona when we were on holiday. Dave and I were on holiday there. And this situation happened a lot. It's another one of those relationship things that some people might recognize. The poem's title is Word for Word. You speak and I don't hear you. Then I say what you said. I just said that, you say. Did you, I say. I didn't hear. We stand watching the traffic flow, and you speak and I don't hear you. Then I say what you said, and we wait for the green light. I just said that, you say. We watch the buses and taxis go by while we wait for the green light, and you speak and I don't hear you. And I say what I say, and you don't hear me. And then you say what I said. I just said that, I say. Did you? I didn't hear you, you say. And we stand by the roadside, waiting for the green light, and we say what we say, word for word. I hope you like that. When I'm reading from this book, what I usually do, I just see I'm reading from the proof copy, which has got a big tick on the front. I read this poem, it's the last poem in the book, which in a funny sort of way, I mean, I didn't know it at the time, kind of leads on to my second collection, which is all about love in one way or another. But this is quite an old one now. The Power of You. In the still, quiet centre of you are all the mountains and valleys, all the streams, rivers, peaceful lakes and raging oceans, all the forests and plains of this earth. In the still, quiet centre of you are the sun and moon and all the planets and stars of the universe forever. In the still, quiet centre of you is all the love there ever was in all the world, through all time, in the still, quiet centre of you. Thank you for listening. I'm going to read some poems from my second collection in a little while, and some new work that I hope will be my third, and some of it which won't, which is new. So there.